night shift begins, Greyline Solutions was not supposed to feel alive. It was a 12-story corporate building of glass and steel, sitting between two busy American highways. During the day, it reflected the sky. At night, it reflected nothing. Only darkness and the occasional red blink of an aircraft warning light on the roof. At 12:07 a.m., every floor was empty, except one on the 12th floor. Under cold fluorescent lights, Arif Rahman was still working. His fingers hovered over the keyboard, trembling, not from fear, but from exhaustion. His tie had been loosened hours ago. His sleeves were rolled up, revealing faint ink marks and stress-bitten skin. A half-empty cup of coffee sat beside his laptop, long gone cold. The screen glowed mercilessly. Final data reconciliation. System locked. Arif stared at it in disbelief. No, he whispered. He glanced at the time on his phone. 12:01 a.m. He had missed the deadline by exactly 1 minute. In Greyline Solutions, 1 minute could cost a career. Arif leaned back in his chair and exhaled slowly, pressing his palms into his eyes. The silence around him felt heavy, thick, like something pressing down on his chest. Earlier that evening, his manager had warned him, "Don't stay late again, Arif. People say this building doesn't like night workers." It had been said as a joke. At least Arif had thought so. Now, sitting alone in the vast open floor, that memory made his skin crawl. The 12th floor was designed as an open workspace. Long rows of cubicles, glass-walled conference rooms, motion sensor lights near the hallways. At night, only a few emergency lights stayed on, casting dull reflections on the polished floor. Too quiet. Arif stood up, intending to leave anyway. He could explain the delay tomorrow. He had to get out of here. That was when he heard it. Click. A soft mechanical sound. The sound of the main office door closing. Arif froze. He hadn't heard footsteps. No elevator chime. No security announcement. Slowly, he turned toward the entrance. The glass door stood shut. He walked toward it, every step echoing louder than it should have. He reached for the handle and pulled. It didn't move. He pulled harder, locked. His heartbeat spiked. "That's not possible," he muttered. Greyline's doors were controlled by badge access, but they never locked employees inside. Never. Arif scanned the office, suddenly aware of how large and empty it felt. He pulled out his phone. No signal. The Wi-Fi icon flickered, then disappeared. That was when the sound came again. Tap, tap, tap. A keyboard. Arif turned around slowly. His laptop screen was on. He was sure he had put it to sleep. White text appeared on the black screen, one letter at a time. "Why are you still here?" Arif's throat tightened. "This isn't funny," he said, forcing his voice to stay steady. No response. Then the lights flickered. Once, twice. The hum of electricity changed pitch. Lower, almost like a distant growl. Half the lights on the floor went out, plunging the far end of the office into darkness. Red emergency lights activated along the hallway. In the reflection of a glass conference room, Arif saw something that made his blood run cold. A shape standing behind him. Tall, too tall. He spun around. Nothing was there. But when he looked back at the reflection, the shape was closer, and it wasn't reflecting light correctly. Arif stumbled back, bumping into his chair. "Who's there?" he demanded. The keyboard typed again. "You're sitting at my desk." A chill ran down his spine. Arif backed away slowly, his eyes scanning the cubicles. Every desk looked the same. Empty. Lifeless. "Look," he said, trying to reason with the darkness. "I don't know who you are, I'm just working late." The temperature dropped. His breath fogged slightly in the air. From somewhere deep within the office, a sound drifted toward him. Not footsteps, dragging, like something heavy, being pulled across the floor. Arif's chest tightened. He grabbed his phone again and tried calling security. No connection. The dragging sound stopped. Silence returned, thick and suffocating. Then a whisper brushed past his ear. So close he felt it. They said night shifts were safe. Arif screamed and spun around. Behind him, near the far cubicles, stood a man, or what looked like one. He wore office clothes, wrinkled dress shirt, loosened tie. His ID badge still hung from his neck, but his face, his eyes were dark hollows. His skin looked gray, stretched too tightly over his bones, and his feet, they didn't touch the floor. Arif couldn't move, couldn't breathe. The figure tilted its head. "I stayed late too," it whispered. The lights exploded. Every bulb shattered at once, plunging the office into darkness. Arif fell to the floor as glass rained around him. In the darkness, something moved. Closer, closer, and then silence. A single emergency light flickered back on. The office was empty again. No figure, no shadow, just Arif, shaking on the floor. On his laptop screen, one final message blinked. The man who never clocked out. Arif didn't remember standing up. One moment he was on the floor, glass crunching beneath his palms, lungs burning from a scream he didn't realize he had held. The next moment, he was upright, leaning against a cubicle wall, gasping for air. The emergency light above flickered weakly. The office looked normal, too normal. No floating figure, no dragging sound, no whisper, just empty desks and silence. Arif laughed, a short broken sound. "I'm hallucinating," he told himself. "I skipped dinner. I drank too much coffee. That's all." He wiped sweat from his forehead and glanced at his laptop. The message was gone. The screen now showed the login page, asking for his password like nothing had happened. But something felt wrong. The air was colder than before. Not AC cold, basement cold. The kind that seeps into bones. Arif stepped away from his desk. That's when he noticed the badge. It was lying on the floor near the neighboring cubicle. A company ID badge. He bent down slowly and picked it up. The plastic was cracked. Old. The photo had faded. The name, however, was still readable. Jonathan Keller, data analyst. Night shift. Arif frowned. Night shift. Greyline Solutions didn't have a night shift. Not officially. He turned the badge over. On the back, written in permanent marker, were 3 words. "Do not stay late." A sudden static noise erupted behind him. Arif jumped. One of the wall-mounted security monitors had turned on by itself. The screen split into multiple camera feeds. Hallways, elevators, stairwells, parking garage, all empty. Then one feed changed. 12th floor. Camera 3. Arif leaned closer. The footage was grainy, time-stamped from years ago. 02:13 a.m. On the screen, a younger man sat at a desk. Same floor, same cubicle layout, same desk Arif had been using. The man on the screen looked exhausted. His shoulders slumped forward as he typed frantically. Coffee cups surrounded him like empty shells. Arif's stomach dropped. That's my desk," he whispered. The man suddenly stopped typing. He looked up directly into the camera. His eyes were wide with fear. Then the lights in the footage went out. The screen filled with darkness. Something moved. The man stood up, backing away from his desk, shaking his head, screaming. Though no sound came through, the camera shook violently. Then, static. The monitor went black. Arif staggered back. "This isn't real," he said. It can't be. The elevator down the hall chimed. Ding. Arif spun toward the sound. The elevator doors were open. Inside, the lights flickered erratically. The display above it glitched. 12, 11, 13. There was no 13th floor. Arif backed away. Nope, he muttered. I'm not doing that. He turned toward the stairwell instead. The emergency exit door stood slightly ajar. Relief surged through him. He rushed toward it and pushed it open. Cold air rushed out, but instead of a stairwell, he saw another office floor, identical to the 12th. Same cubicles, same desks, same silence. Behind him, the door slammed shut. A voice spoke from everywhere at once. Not whispered this time. Clear, calm. They told me it would only be one night. The lights dimmed. In the center of the office, a shape began to form. Like smoke condensing into flesh. Jonathan Keller stood there. His face was clearer now. He looked less monstrous, more human. And that somehow made it worse. They said deadlines mattered more than sleep, Jonathan continued. They said staying late meant dedication. He looked at Arif with hollow eyes. They forgot to tell me about the building. Arif's legs shook. What are you? He asked. Jonathan smiled sadly. I'm what happens when someone works past 4 a.m. The temperature plummeted. Frost crept along the glass walls. Jonathan raised a finger and pointed at Arif's chest. You're still here, he said softly. And the building is hungry. On Arif's phone, the screen suddenly lit up. Time 3:12 a.m. A new notification appeared. Shift end 4:08 a.m. Employees left inside will be processed. Arif screamed. The rules of the building. Arif's phone vibrated again in his shaking hand. 3:12 a.m. The numbers felt wrong. Too bright, too sharp against the darkness around him. Processed? He whispered. What does that mean? Jonathan Keller didn't answer right away. He drifted across the floor, his feet still inches above the ground. Wherever he passed, the air shimmered, like heat above asphalt. You hear it now, don't you? Jonathan said softly. Hear what? Arif demanded, backing away. Jonathan tilted his head. The building answered for him. A low sound began to rise from the walls. Not a hum, not a vibration. A breathing sound. Slow, deep, massive. The glass walls trembled slightly with each inhale. Arif clutched his ears. This isn't real. This is stress. I'm dreaming. Jonathan stopped in front of him. I told myself the same thing, he said. That's how it gets you. The emergency lights flickered again, then stabilized. Words began to appear on the far wall, burning themselves into the paint like heated metal. Night shift protocol. Line by line, the rules revealed themselves. Rule number 1. Do not attempt to leave between 12:30 a.m. and 4:08 a.m. Arif swallowed hard. I tried the stairwell, he said. Jonathan nodded slowly, and it showed you what it wanted. Rule number 2. Do not use a desk that is not assigned to you. Arif's chest tightened. That's why you're here, he said. Because I took your desk. Jonathan's expression darkened. That desk, he replied, is where it learned me. Rule number 3. Do not fall asleep. As the words appeared, Arif felt it. A crushing weight behind his eyes. An overwhelming urge to sit, to rest, just for a second. His knees buckled. Jonathan grabbed him, not with hands, but with something colder, firmer. If you sleep, Jonathan said urgently, you don't wake up as you. Rule Shariwar. Do not answer voices that know your name. Right on cue, a voice drifted through the office. Gentle, familiar. Arif? His mother's voice. His breath caught. Jonathan hissed. don't. The voice came again, closer. Arif, it's late. Come home. Tears burned Arif's eyes. It knows, Jonathan said quietly. It reads you while you work. The final rule appeared last, slower than the others, like the building wanted him to really read it. Rule number 5. Only one employee may leave at 4 a.m. Arif stared at the words. Only one. There's only me, he said. Jonathan didn't respond. Arif turned slowly. Jonathan was looking at him with something like regret. You think I'm still an employee? Jonathan asked. The office lights dimmed further. From the far end of the floor, desks began to shake. Chairs rolled on their own. Monitors turned on one by one, each displaying the same message. Work must be completed. What happens at 4? Arif asked. Jonathan's voice dropped to a whisper. It clocks you out, he said. Or it keeps you. A sudden alarm blared. Not a fire alarm. A time clock. Punch-in sound. Arif's phone buzzed violently. 3:30 a.m. Task assigned. His laptop slammed shut, then reopened by itself. A new file appeared. Employee replacement evaluation. Inside it were 2 names. Current, Jonathan Keller. Candidate, Arif Rahman. Arif backed away, shaking his head. No. Jonathan's form flickered, his edges distorting like a corrupted video file. I tried to refuse, Jonathan said. I tried to run. I tried to fight. What do I do? Arif screamed. Tell me. Jonathan stepped closer. So did the last guy, he said softly. The breathing sound grew louder. The walls pulsed. From beneath the floor, something knocked. Once, twice, 3 times. 3:44 a.m. Jonathan leaned in, his voice barely audible. You don't survive by escaping, he said. You survive by being replaced. The lights went out. Total darkness. In that darkness, dozens of voices whispered. Arif's first escape attempt. Darkness pressed in from every direction. Not empty darkness, occupied darkness. Arif couldn't see his hands, but he could feel the space around him tightening, as if the office itself was shrinking. The whispering voices layered over one another, repeating his name in different tones. Some mocking, some pleading, some furious. Arif, stay, work. He squeezed his eyes shut and screamed. Stop. The whispers died instantly. Emergency lights snapped back on. Arif collapsed to his knees, gasping. Sweat soaked through his shirt, cold against his skin. The office looked distorted now. Desks slightly warped. Glass walls bending at impossible angles. Jonathan Keller stood several feet away, but he looked worse. Parts of him flickered in and out, like a corrupted hologram. His face glitched, sometimes human, sometimes something stretched and hollow. You wasted time, Jonathan said. Arif checked his phone. 3:46 a.m. I need to get out, Arif said. I don't care how. Jonathan stared at him. Then listen carefully, he said. This will only work once the building exhaled. The breathing sound deepened, slower now, anticipatory. Jonathan pointed down the hallway. The elevators are lies, he said. The stairs loop. The exits reset. Then what's left? Arif demanded. Jonathan hesitated. The service elevator, he said finally. It wasn't meant for people. At the far end of the floor, a metal door groaned. Arif hadn't noticed it before. It was dull gray, scratched, unmarked. No floor indicator. No call button. How do I call it? Arif asked. Jonathan's eyes darkened. You don't, he said. It comes when the building thinks you're ready to leave. The metal door slammed open. Inside the service elevator, the lights flickered weakly. The walls were scarred with deep grooves. as if something had clawed its way out. Arif backed away instinctively. "I'm not getting in that." Jonathan's voice sharpened. "You don't have a choice." The office lights began to strobe. Monitors turned on violently, flooding the space with white light. Employee evaluation in progress. Desks slid across the floor, blocking exits. Chairs stacked themselves into barricades. The building was rearranging itself. Arif ran. He sprinted toward the service elevator as the floor behind him cracked, splitting, open just enough to reveal darkness beneath, endless and breathing. He dove inside. The doors slammed shut with bone-crushing force. The elevator lurched downward. Hard, Arif was thrown against the wall, his shoulders screaming in pain. The lights flickered rapidly as the elevator dropped past floors too fast to count. The display above the door glitched violently. 12, 11, 7, 3, Martian, 4. What floor is this? Arif shouted. Jonathan's voice crackled through the speaker. "It's not floors," he said. "It's depth." The elevator slowed, then stopped. The doors creaked open. Arif stepped out and froze. He was still inside Greyline Solutions, but this version was wrong. The ceiling was lower. The lights were dimmer. The desks were older, outdated. The air smelled of rot and burned electronics. Cubicles stretched endlessly in every direction, and every single one of them was occupied. Men and women sat at desks, typing silently. Their faces were pale, their eyes empty. None of them looked up. "What is this place?" Arif whispered. Jonathan's voice came from behind him. "The retention floor," he said. Arif turned. Jonathan was solid now. Too solid. "This is where employees go," Jonathan continued, "when they don't get replaced." A woman at a nearby desk suddenly looked up. Her mouth opened, but instead of words, blood poured out, soaking her keyboard. The typing never stopped. Another employee's fingers bent backward, bones snapping audibly, but still, he typed. "Stop looking," Jonathan hissed. Arif staggered back toward the elevator. The doors were gone. In their place was a wall of glass. On the other side, the building pulsed like a living organism. Veins of light running through concrete. Jonathan grabbed Arif's arm. "You see now," he said. "There are only two ways out." "What are they?" Arif cried. Jonathan leaned close. "One," he said, "is to be chosen." The employees around them began to turn, slowly, in unison. Their mouths opened. All at once they spoke. "Replacement required." Arif screamed. The lights exploded again. What the building really is. Arif woke up choking, not on smoke, on air that felt thick, heavy, old, used. He was lying on the office floor again. The real 12th floor. Emergency lights pulsed slowly, like a heartbeat. For a moment, Arif wondered if everything he'd seen, the retention floor, the trapped employees, had been a hallucination. Then he noticed the handprint on his wrist, dark, bruised, not human. Jonathan's grip. Arif pushed himself upright. "Jonathan!" he shouted. No answer. The office was rearranged again. Cubicles no longer aligned properly. Hallways bent slightly to the left, like the building was leaning inward. His phone buzzed. 3:51 a.m., 9 minutes. The walls shuddered. A deep groan traveled through the concrete, something between metal stress and hunger. Arif staggered forward, heart hammering. "I won't work," he said aloud. "I won't replace anyone." The building responded. All the monitors turned on at once, not with messages, with videos. Hundreds of security clips played simultaneously. Different years, different nights. Employees alone, employees tired, employees late. Each clip ended the same way. Lights out. Screaming. Silence. Then one clip froze. Jonathan Keller. His footage resumed. But this time, it didn't cut to static. Arif watched, horrified. Jonathan was standing exactly where Arif stood now. Talking. Pleading. A shape formed behind him. Vast. Indistinct. Then Jonathan turned toward the camera and said something. The video had sound now. I'll stay. The screen paused. A new file opened automatically. Building origin log. Text scrolled slowly, as if reluctant to be read. Greyline Solutions was constructed on the site of a failed data storage facility. During construction, a server collapse killed 12 overnight workers. Their bodies were never recovered. Arif's blood ran cold. Another line appeared. Productivity did not decrease. The building adapted. The walls pulsed. Arif felt it then, not metaphorically, physically. The building wasn't haunted. It was inhabited by something that learned, something that understood deadlines, burnout, obedience. Jonathan's voice echoed faintly. You think it wants souls? He said. Jonathan emerged from the shadows. He looked clearer now, more complete. No, Jonathan continued. It wants workers. Arif backed away. You said you were trapped. Jonathan nodded. I was. You said you wanted out. I do. The truth settled like ice in Arif's chest. You're trying to replace yourself. Jonathan didn't deny it. I tried to escape, he said. I tried to starve it. I tried to fight it. Jonathan gestured to the walls. It doesn't punish rebellion, he said. It ignores it. The monitors changed again. Now they showed Arif's life. Late nights, missed calls, unanswered texts, emails sent at 2:00 a.m. You were already halfway gone, Jonathan said gently. It noticed. The floor vibrated. A new message appeared everywhere. Selection phase initiated. 3:56 a.m. 4 minutes. Jonathan stepped closer. I can leave if you stay, he said. And if you stay long enough. His voice dropped. You won't feel the hours anymore. Arif shook his head violently. You're lying. Jonathan smiled sadly. I'm surviving. The building inhaled. A door opened in the far wall. Not an exit. A time clock. Old-fashioned, rusted, stained. A single card slot. Above it, glowing red numbers. 3:59 a.m. The whispers returned. But now they weren't saying Arif's name. They were saying, clock in, clock in. Jonathan stood beside the machine. Make a choice, he said. The building leaned. The time clock ticked. 3:59:32, 3:59:33. The sound wasn't mechanical anymore. It was organic, wet, like a pulse. Arif stood frozen, staring at the rusted time clock embedded in the wall. Veins of dim red light spread outward from it, crawling through the concrete like capillaries. The building leaned inward, every wall subtly angled toward that single point. Jonathan stood beside the clock, unnaturally still. You don't have to rush, Jonathan said softly. You've been rushing your whole life. Arif's hands trembled. Why me? He demanded. Why not someone else? Jonathan looked almost ashamed. Because you stayed, he said. Because you answered emails after midnight. Because you ignored the part of you that knew to go home. The monitors flickered again. They now showed a live feed. The lobby. Morning light beginning to bleed through the glass doors. Cars passing outside. Normal life. Freedom. Arif stepped toward the screen. I can still make it, he whispered. Jonathan's hand shot out and grabbed his arm. Cold, iron strong. No, Jonathan said. You can't. Arif looked down. The handprint on his wrist had spread. Dark veins branching outward. What did you do to me? Arif asked. Jonathan didn't answer. The building did. A voice, deep, layered, impossible to locate, spoke for the first time. Employee status, partially assimilated. Arif screamed and tried to pull away, but the floor softened beneath his feet, swallowing his shoes like mud. No, he begged. Please. Jonathan's expression cracked. I didn't know it would take you this fast, he said. You said you were helping me, Arif shouted. Jonathan's voice broke. I said I was helping myself. The time clock beeped. 3:51:25. The whispers rose into chanting. Clock in. Clock in. Arif felt memories slipping, not disappearing, being filed. Childhood laughter reduced to background noise. Faces of loved ones flattened into data points. Sleep becoming irrelevant. He understood then. This wasn't death. This was employment. Arif lunged. He tackled Jonathan, slamming them both into the wall. The building shrieked, an ear-splitting sound that rattled glass and bone. Jonathan screamed in pain as something tore out of him. Threads of light ripping free. Stop, Jonathan cried. You'll trap us both. Arif grabbed Jonathan's ID badge, the cracked one from earlier. Jonathan Keller. Night shift. With a final surge of strength, Arif slammed the badge into the time clock slot. The machine screamed. The lights exploded outward in a blinding flash. The chanting stopped. Silence. Then, 4 a.m., the building exhaled violently. Jonathan was lifted off the ground, his form unraveling into streams of light and shadow. No, Jonathan gasped. You don't know what you're doing. I'm clocking you out, Arif said through tears. Jonathan's scream echoed as he was pulled into the wall, absorbed, erased, archived. The time clock went dark. The veins in the walls receded. The floor hardened beneath Arif's feet. The monitors shut off one by one. A calm voice spoke. Replacement accepted. Arif froze. Replacement. The lobby feed turned back on. The front doors slid open. Morning sunlight flooded the screen. He was alone. Epilogue. At 8:43 a.m., employees returned to Gray Line Solutions. They found Arif sitting at his desk, quiet, focused, typing. When asked if he was okay, he smiled politely. Just pulling an all-nighter, he said. No one noticed the new desk plaque. No one questioned the faint breathing in the walls. And at exactly 11:59 p.m., the building leaned forward, and Arif clocked in. A final message appeared on Arif's phone. Shift complete. Status active employee. Next shift tonight, 12 a.m. The building released him. Arif collapsed to the floor, sobbing. When he looked up, the hallway seemed longer than it should have. Arif's shoes clicked against the polished floor, but the sound felt amplified, echoing endlessly. The fluorescent lights above flickered in erratic patterns, casting the cubicles in sharp, shifting shadows. Every corner looked as though it might hide a figure waiting to strike. Or worse, to watch. He had tried the elevators. They didn't respond. The stairwell was a loop. A frustrating, endless corridor that led him back to the same floor. The same cubicles. The same humming fluorescent lights. Panic rose like bile in his throat. He gripped the railing of the stairwell, fingers white with tension. Then he noticed a door he hadn't seen before. Gray metal, scratched, unmarked. Its handle was cold, almost alive to the touch. The air around it felt heavier, charged with static, and faint whispering seemed to ooze from the edges. Arif's instincts screamed at him to run, but curiosity, maybe survival instinct, pulled him forward. He pushed the door open. The room, or floor, beyond was different. Cubicles stretched endlessly. They weren't organized neatly anymore. They were jagged, uneven, leaning as if the building itself had warped. Fluorescent lights overhead flickered violently, some buzzing, some dim, casting long, impossible shadows. The air smelled stale, metallic, like rusted machinery. And then he saw them. Employees, at their desks, typing without pause, their faces pale, their eyes wide and empty. Some had skin stretched too tightly across their skulls. Some bled from the corners of their mouths, yet their fingers moved, typing. Others bent unnaturally, bones creaking, cracking audibly, yet they typed. The keys clicked in hypnotic, endless rhythm. Arif stumbled backward, nearly falling. A familiar voice whispered behind him, "You survived by being replaced." He spun. The shadow from before, now more solid, flickered before him. Jonathan Keller, or what remained of him. I don't understand, Arif stammered. Why are they like this? What is this place? Jonathan's hollow eyes glimmered. This is the retention floor. Employees who stay too late, who break the rules, who ignore the signs. They don't leave. Not really. The building absorbs them. The monitors lining the walls turned on. Hundreds of security clips flickered. Night after night, year after year. Employees alone at their desks, working past midnight. Each clip ended the same. A scream, then darkness. Occasionally, a familiar figure. Jonathan Keller appeared, trapped, desperate, screaming silently into the cameras. The building, Arif whispered, his voice trembling. It's alive? Jonathan nodded. It learns. It adapts. It wants workers, not souls. It doesn't punish rebellion. It ignores it. Until it decides you belong. Arif felt his pulse hammering. His phone buzzed. 3:52 a.m., 4 minutes until 4 a.m., when the building would decide who leaves, who stays, who is replaced. Suddenly, the employees at the desks began turning. Slowly. Their heads twisted unnaturally, some bodies creaking in ways human bones shouldn't. Their mouths opened. No words came out, just a wet, sucking noise, as if the sound of hours, of lives, of time itself was being devoured. Arif ran. He didn't know where. Hallways bent in impossible angles. The building seemed to shift around him. Chairs rose like walls. Cubicles merged into each other. Stairwells twisted like spirals. Every exit he tried led him deeper into the retention floor. Jonathan followed, his form partially solid, flickering in and out of reality. "There is only one way out," he said. "The service elevator. But it comes only when the building thinks you're ready. And by then, some part of you may already belong here." Arif's chest heaved. He reached the elevator doors. They groaned open, revealing a car scarred with claw marks and deep grooves along the metal walls. The fluorescent lights flickered weakly, showing the scars of previous occupants. "I'm not going in," Arif whispered. "No way." Jonathan's voice was firmer now. "You don't have a choice. You either face it or become part of the building." Arif hesitated, every instinct screaming at him to run. Behind him, the twisted employees shuffled closer, empty eyes locked on him, fingers twitching over keyboards they no longer needed. The building's pulse reverberated through the floor, a low, constant vibration, like the heartbeat of something immense, patient and hungry. He took a step forward, then another. The service elevator doors closed behind him with a deafening slam, and the floor beneath his feet vibrated violently. The elevator lurched downward. Numbers above the door flickered. 12, 7, 3, 1. Arif realized the floors weren't counting up or down. They were counting depths. Below, in the darkness, the employees were still typing, still watching, still waiting, and the building was alive, and it knew him. The elevator shuddered as it moved, descending into floors that didn't exist, or perhaps had never existed in the building's blueprints. The lights flickered violently. Shadows danced across the walls, stretching and twisting like living tendrils. Arif gripped the railing, feeling the vibrations crawl up his arms, up his spine. Every panel in the elevator displayed numbers that didn't make sense. 12, 7, 3, 1. Floors that defied reality, counting down or up, according to some logic only the building understood. Jonathan's form hovered beside him, partially solid, partially mist. "The building doesn't follow rules we understand," he said. His voice echoed, layered, as if more than one Jonathan spoke at once. "It learns. Every hour you spend here, it knows you more than yourself, your fears, your weaknesses. It uses them." Arif swallowed hard. "Why you?" he asked. "Why did it keep you?" Jonathan's eyes flickered, full of sorrow. "I stayed late for years, too many nights. I ignored the little voice inside me telling me to go home. And the building, it noticed. I tried to escape. I tried to resist, starve it, even fight it. Nothing worked. This," he gestured at the walls, which pulsed faintly. "This is its way of preserving efficiency." The elevator lurched, the walls rippled, and suddenly the air felt thick, almost tactile. Arif could see faint outlines of countless faces pressed into the walls. Workers from decades past, trapped in a liminal state, eyes hollow, mouths silent. The building had recorded them, not as ghosts, but as data, processing human life into its own structure. "I don't understand," Arif whispered. "It doesn't kill. It absorbs?" Jonathan nodded. "Not the way you think. Death is slow here. You don't leave. You work. The building feeds on your hours, your time, your exhaustion. Every mistake, every deadline, every late night, it's currency for survival." Arif's stomach twisted. "And if I stay too long," Jonathan's eyes met his, "then you become part of it. Part of the floor, the desks, the blinking monitors. It never forgets." And eventually, his voice dropped. "You forget yourself." The elevator slowed. Numbers flickered wildly. 2, 3, 4. A soft whisper filled the air. Not Jonathan's voice, not his own. A chorus. Hundreds of voices chanting in faint syncopation. "Clock in. Clock in. Clock in." Arif clutched his head. Images flashed before his eyes. Himself at home, ignoring calls, skipping meals, answering emails at 2 a.m. Faces of loved ones blurred, time slipping away. The building was showing him his life. Not as he remembered it, but as it had cataloged it. Every choice, every late night, every sacrifice he had made for productivity. "You see," Jonathan said, voice trembling, "the building chooses employees who are ready. Ready in mind, in habit. And you," he shook his head, "you've already been half-selected. That's why you felt it noticing you. You weren't careful enough. It knew your routine before you did." Arif's breathing quickened. He remembered the shadowy employees on the retention floor, the pale typing, the empty eyes. He realized something even worse. He might already be partially absorbed, his consciousness fraying like threads pulled into a machine. The elevator stopped abruptly. The doors opened to an empty floor. There were no cubicles here, just darkness. A single time clock stood in the center, glowing faintly red. Veins of light crawled from it, threading along the floor, pulsing rhythmically. Arif stepped toward it. His phone buzzed. 3:57 a.m. The building exhaled. A low, metallic groan vibrated through the walls. From the shadows, the ghostly figures of the retention floor appeared. Dozens of them, floating just above the ground, hands extended, mouths whispering words he could barely comprehend. "Clock in, clock in," Jonathan whispered urgently. "This is it, the last moment. If you don't act, the building decides for you. It doesn't need to punish. It only needs to take." Arif swallowed, his hands shaking violently. A plan formed, fragile and desperate. He grabbed Jonathan's old ID badge from his pocket, the cracked one he had found earlier, and ran toward the time clock. The ghostly figures surged closer. The floor itself seemed to ripple beneath his feet. Every pulse of the building pressed down on him, threatening to drag him into the shadows. The whispers became screams, yet all the voices were a single command. "Clock in, clock in, clock in." Arif's fingers touched the slot, heart hammering, sweat dripping. The building pulsed violently, reacting, aware, alive. He pressed the badge in. The building shrieked. The ghostly employees froze. Jonathan's form was pulled violently toward the glowing walls, threads of his being unraveling into strands of shadow and light. His scream echoed, fading into nothing. The time clock beeped. Silence. Arif staggered back. The walls were still, the floor hard, the pulse gone. The building had accepted his replacement. He had survived. Arif's hands shook as he stared at the glowing time clock. 3:59:32, 3:59:33. The pulse of the building grew faster, louder. The veins of red light crawling along the floor and walls throbbed like a living heart. He felt the whispers pressing against his mind, trying to pull him in, trying to convince him to stay, to sit at a desk and work endlessly. Jonathan hovered beside him, partially solid, partially mist, his face twisted in agony. "You don't understand," he gasped. "If you fail, the building keeps you. It doesn't let go. Not ever." Arif swallowed hard. The ghostly employees from the retention floor surged forward, their faces hollow, mouths open, whispering, "Clock in, clock in, clock in." The floor beneath Arif's feet softened, almost liquid, trying to pull him down. He stumbled, barely maintaining balance. The walls bent inward, pressing him toward the time clock. The ceiling leaned down, pressing cold shadows over his head. His phone buzzed again. 3:59:55 a.m. He had less than 5 seconds. Jonathan reached out, his hand trembling. The badge. It's the only way, but his eyes flickered. "I can't hold it for you. I've tried. I failed." Arif's heart thundered. He grabbed Jonathan's cracked ID badge from his pocket. With trembling fingers, he slammed it into the slot. The time clock beeped violently. The building shrieked. Walls trembled. Monitors flashed static images of employees frozen in time, some screaming, some typing. Jonathan's scream pierced through the chaos. Streams of light and shadow ripped from him, unraveling his body, absorbing him into the walls. You don't know what you're doing," he yelled, voice breaking. "I'm clocking you out," Arif gasped, tears running down his face. The floor vibrated violently, trying to pull Arif in. The red veins in the walls expanded, reaching toward him. But with every ounce of strength, he held the badge in place. The time clock glowed brighter. The shadows screamed, then froze. The monitors blinked. One by one, the ghostly employees vanished. The pulse of the building slowed, then stopped. Silence. Replacement accepted. Arif collapsed. The walls were still. The floor was solid again. Sunlight from the lobby's glass doors faintly reflected in the time clock. Now dormant, he was alive, free, but changed. By 8:43 a.m., employees returned. They found Arif at his desk, exhausted, pale, quietly typing. No one noticed the faint pulse beneath the floorboards. No one saw the shadows lingering in the corners of the office. Arif stared at the clock on his desk. 11:59 p.m. was approaching. His phone buzzed. A reminder. Midnight. The building would awaken again. But now, he had survived. He whispered softly, almost to himself. If you liked this story, make sure to subscribe to the channel and stay with us. Because you never know which office will be next. The office remained quiet, but Arif knew, deep in his bones, that Greyline Solutions was patient, watching, and always hungry. The office hummed quietly in the morning light. Fluorescent bulbs buzzed softly. Keyboards clicked from employees who had arrived hours ago. To any outsider, Greyline Solutions appeared normal. Even the janitor pushed his cart down the hallway, without noticing the faint red veins that still pulsed beneath the tiles in the restricted floors. Arif sat at his desk, pale, exhausted, staring at his laptop screen. His hands shook as he scrolled through emails he had missed during the night. A subtle headache throbbed at his temples, a lingering pulse from the building's attempt to claim him. He felt hollow, a fraction of his consciousness, still aware of what had tried to reach him from the retention floor. No one had asked where he had been. No one had noticed the red-eyed shadows lurking in the corner cubicles. The building was patient, observant, waiting. Arif rubbed his eyes. Outside, the sun rose over the city skyline. Normal, indifferent. The hum of traffic and distant construction masked the faint, constant heartbeat beneath the office floorboards. He knew he would never stay late again. Not willingly, not by choice. The memory of the faceless employees, the endless typing, the whispers of clock in, would haunt him forever. And yet, a subtle, insistent feeling tugged at the edge of his mind. A memory of the building's pulse, a faint promise in the back of his consciousness. It is patient, it waits. Next time, it may choose differently. Arif glanced at the lobby clock. 11:59 p.m. tomorrow. The cycle would begin again for someone else. He shivered, remembering the ghostly figure of Jonathan Keller. He had survived, but he knew the building was always hungry, always learning, always alive. He leaned back in his chair and whispered almost reflexively, as if talking to the camera of a YouTube video. If you liked this story, make sure to subscribe to the channel and stay with us, because you never know which office will be next. Outside, the city continued its daily rhythm, unaware. Inside, Greyline Solutions breathed slowly, quietly, as if waiting for the next employee foolish enough to stay past midnight. And somewhere deep within the bowels of the building, a shadow twitched. It was patient. It was hungry. It was